Good afternoon. I am Gajendra Sharma from Kathmandu University. My topic of presentation is crisis management during and beyond COVID-19, role of ICT in Nepalese education context. So this is a very important topic in crisis management and which is very applicable nowadays during this pandemic. The outline of my presentation is introduction, impact of COVID-19 on education in Nepal, problems and challenges, preparedness and response, inclusion of ICT in the education sector, and finally, my presentation is ended with conclusion section. So first of all, introduction. Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that are common in people and and many different species of animals. So COVID-19 is nowadays considered as international pandemic, which is affecting, which has been affecting entire population worldwide. Mostly impact of school closures on children and learning due to COVID-19. Many students are having limited access for the most marginalized, let's say, people, more than a health crisis. For example, learning, well-being, and safety at risk. It needs to provide an opportunity to evaluate current response concepts, plans, and capabilities in response to an outbreak of a novel viral disease, that is COVID-19. And for this purpose, we need training and emergency preparedness plans globally, mostly in academic institutions. In the meantime, education is a fundamental human right for all children and youth. It creates the voice through which other rights can be claimed and protected. And the next part is planning issues during COVID-19. First issue is timely recognition and isolation, personal protective equipment use, protection of teachers, staff, students, and visitors, information management, surveillance, contact tracing, and movement monitoring, environmental and waste management, and digital learning. So digital learning is very important issue during and beyond pandemic. Safety and well-being of students, families, and staff continue to be top priority. Must focus on equity for most vulnerable students, maintaining connections between school staff and students is paramount. As virtual or distance learning takes place to the general student population during a school closure, the school or district must ensure that students with disabilities also have equal access to the educational opportunities. And this figure shows different policy and financial issues during pandemic, safe operations, learning opportunities, including the most marginalized students, well-being and protection. And we have five major steps for education approach. For example, community engagement and empowerment, equitable access and retention, safe and inclusive learning, quality education, and finally, strengthening of education systems. Now, preparedness and response plans in Nepal during COVID-19. Ministry of Health and Population has provided information on risk categorization of districts, suspension period of all domestic and international commercial passenger flights, and similarly, Ministry is engaged in assisting the provincial and local governments. And moreover, National Health Training Center Kathmandu has prepared training package on case investigation and contact tracing, cooperating with different communities, for example, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Home Affairs, and Nepal Army. So three major issues are important here: preparedness, response, and recovery. These are integrated operations during international crisis. And furthermore, extended school closures may cause not only loss of learning in the short term, but also further loss in human capital and diminished economic opportunities over the long term. Now, moving towards current preparedness interventions in Nepal, coordination with Ministry of Women, Children and Senior Citizen and development of women and children are mandatory. Help desks around quarantine sites have been formulated. Coordination with protection cluster members and relevant organizations, and updating mapping of protection cluster partners, stockpiling, list of psychological counselor and other preparedness activities have been introduced country-wise. Now, the major impact of COVID-19 on education in Nepal is that nearly 8 million students have been affected directly or indirectly by COVID-19. So this is the exact figure of influence created by pandemic. And some major challenges of COVID-19 in education sector are that shortage of necessary funding for the appropriate educational approach to the situation, dropout rate of students are high, not enough teachers uh, or sufficient teachers are not available for teaching in many academic institutions. Likewise, no equal access capacity, resources are available, increased pressure on households and families, loss of schools enabling and protective environment. So in this case, we must work together to make our education systems more resilient and better preparedness for the current paradigm shift as well as to face possible crises in the future. The next part of my presentation is inclusion of ICT in education sector. So ICT means information and communication technology. Initiation of distance learning by academic institutions are very popular nowadays, and many academic institutions were moved to digital infrastructure or they developed very good digital infrastructure. For example, online teaching and learning platform, video conferencing, workshops on parenting in the digital age, educate children, young people, and parents on the positive use of the internet. Similarly, strengthening law enforcement to report online abuses and make reporting accessible throughout the country. Develop simple and easy cyber safety resources in Nepali and local language. And finally, the overall conclusion of my presentation is that the COVID-19 pandemic has created educational disorder in academic institutions worldwide. If proper actions are not taken on time, the entire education system will be immobile. It seems appropriate to advance education accordingly by preparing a platform for conducting education based on geographically remoteness, economic status of families. These are some of the references I used during this study. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Please stay safe and be healthy. Thank you.